Hi, everyone, and thanks for checking in again with us. We're talking to Luke Wonderly, who's down in Venus, Florida. That would be where the Venus Project is located. And how are you doing today, Luke?
I'm fine, Steve,
Doing.
and the first thing I'd like to do is thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I've followed you for quite some years now, and I acknowledge the efforts, the resources that you use of your own to try to make this a better world, to try to do everything that you can. I acknowledge that, and I really appreciate it, as I know so many people out there do.
And same to you. I really got captivated by you when you started this peace walk. And was that just like after you learned about the Venus Project? Did you learn from that from watching Zeitgeist Addendum like so many of us did? That's how I learned about it.
Absolutely, I am a I watched the first Zeitgeist actually. And, I wrote Peter that night and I said, what good is this, man? You get everybody all riled up, as so many of us did with the first actual Zeitgeist film. And no sooner, a little while after that, he introduced the addendum, which introduced Jock and Roxanne. And I just thank Peter Joseph so much for that work. And he's continuing to this day. And that's how I learned of it. And a peace walk
Yeah.
that extended because I didn't have any money. I would have done, a trailer, or I tried to do a bike house, but because there's no money, all I could do is walk.
Yeah, there were just pictures of you walking with this little carriage you had put together behind you. Did you do that like half a year or a year or something? How
No,
long?
it was a year and 3 months.
A year and 3 months. Wow. And you met people all over the western half of the country where you were. Did a lot of people, I know a lot of them were friendly to you. Did some offer you to come stay at their house for a day or two while you did that?
Yes, I was very fortunate. And they were out of all the different churches. Churches are supposed to be, a visible representation of a deity, which most all deities have the same underlying theme that runs throughout that, concurrent to that religion, which is everyone equal, your fellow man, having stewardship over the earth. And out of all those churches I stopped into, only two, allowed me to stay on the grounds. And one of them invited me to come in and speak before a group. They were in the middle of a meeting. They were showing films and they invited me to speak. And it was a wonderful opportunity too. They were riveted too. So I was talking about the future, jetpacks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you reached so many people doing that, and then I guess you kind of felt a destiny calling or something from Florida. At what point did you head down there to join the forces at the Venus Project?
Well, it was a few years later. At the end, I ended up getting a ticket for sleeping. It's against the law. Now the Supreme Court has ruled that is illegal that it's actually legal. There's no precedent for people to be arrested because they don't have a place to stay. And so I was getting a ticket. I was ending up being a lawbreaker, and that's not real. Plus, I got beat up a few times, violently.
Yeah. Oh God.
I had a gun pulled on me. Here I am with this big sign, peace walk, a peace
Yeah.
sign. And it just, people are on drugs. People are very, what we would call hardwired about America. There's too many of you bloody peace people out there. You're ruining this country.
Oh, Jesus.
It's their duty to kill you. That the country is better off, in that regard. So it's not the world that we used to think. It's not a sane world. It's not a world where you can just walk around and spread the message. It's against the law. So at the end, I just became aware that I could not really be an ambassador or a representation if I'm a lawbreaker. That gives them ammo to say, hey, this, that, or the other. And sometimes, some of these guys, even religious nature, would come up and get a job. And I had already worked 30 something years, usually longer than they've been alive. So you have that as well. After so many people have been hit by, people that are homeless that need money, and they're asking all the time, can you help me here? I got a big story here. I have a wife in the hospital. They just get tired of people asking. So
Yeah.
even those who had a message, who had a scientific alternative, irrefutable about how we can get from here to there, they were not interested because of, their experiences with so many people. There is so many families, so many kids. Some of the stuff I saw it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah. That's why this world needs a redo. We need to start over with a new system. And of course, Jacques worked at that for so many decades, and his work is amazing, and it's touched so many people. And when I saw that you ended up down at the Venus Project there in Florida, I thought, perfect. What what a great person to be down there helping out. And that was what, 3 years ago? Was that a few years ago?
Yeah, it's going on 2 years.
2 years?
There was one of the largest hurricanes that has ever been recorded in history through Florida, Hurricane Irma, and suffered a lot of damage, tremendous damage, which there's videos on. The Venus Project has photos of what happened. And so Roxanne called because he needed help to clean up. Now the buildings, there was no damage to the buildings, which really illustrates that Jacques had, that buildings can protect people, not destroy them. So the Venus Project, all the buildings were in great shape. There was flooding, but unlike everybody else in the area, we didn't have to tear out drywall. Everywhere you look, people's furniture was out on the road to be carried off because it was completely water soaked and damaged. So there was a little bit of water damage, but there was no deconstruction. There was no rot. There was because they're concrete,
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's so great. And I saw pictures of the cleanup. You guys were working hard, but it was mostly the outside, the grounds that
yeah.
just
Oh man.
needed to be cleaned up. That was a big job. And it's great the buildings survived and they're built to last. That's fantastic. How many buildings are there down there? I see pictures here and there. I've never really seen an overview. Are there like 8 or 10 different buildings around there?
You need to come out here, Steve, and everybody else. And
Yeah.
we welcome everyone from all over the world. When you come here for your tour on Saturdays, there's tours that are available. People come from all over the world.
Yeah.
And people of notable reference, those in their fields of expertise that come here from all over the world because they too want a better world. And there's 10 buildings, and they each serve different functions. I've really been very fortunate. I'm just like everybody else, okay? I'm just a volunteer, and I'm very fortunate. And I work on behalf of all of you. And I'll work very, very hard. It's 22 acres, by the way. It's not just buildings. And there's lakes and ponds and streams and bridges, and it's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful representation of what a residential section of a modern city might be like. And so it's visible.
Yeah.
It's something that you can really take home with you. It becomes real. You've experienced it. And so there's a lot of work, and I work on behalf of those who aren't able to be here. And I'm just a visitor. I don't live here. I'm just a visitor like everyone else. And so that's what I do. And I was invited to stay after the hurricane to help maintain 22 acres and the buildings and keep it prepped every Saturday in the summertime, which is summer here in Florida. Their schedule for the tours is every 2 weeks. And it takes a lot of preparation to have it ready in order to illustrate and have it in such a shape that exemplifies Jacques and Roxanne's vision. So it is a lot of work. And I was asked to stay. Also, I'm doing a song album. It's a fundraiser. We're still in a monetary world. That's why I acknowledge, because this show takes your own money. This show takes your own time. You can be watching a football game or at the mall or some rock concert, but you choose not to do that. Your own time is invested for everybody else. And so that's, also, so the fundraiser is a song album. So that's why he's invited me to stay, provides me a room where I can actually do the work. And it's all based on donations. People have helped me to purchase the equipment. People have helped me to have food. And so I'm very, very, very fortunate to be here. And just
Yeah. I'm a guitar player also. Yeah, I played in bands for about 40 years, actually.
well,
I
we
live up,
need your help.
yeah, I live in Colorado and about a half hour from Aspen. And I moved up here 40 years ago and started playing in bands at the ski resort, and did that for a long time, as well as other things that I've been doing. But I got into video production and writing screenplays. And so that kind of led me to making videos. And then when I heard about the Venus Project and the resource-based economy, it pretty much took over my life too. And that's all I've been kind of thinking about and working towards for 10 years, like you. Hey, how many people are there on site there that live there? Are there just 2 or 3 or 4 people or 10 people that are there all the time?
There's only one other person. There's only Roxanne and Nate Dinwiddie, who's in charge of the archive department. There's different departments here.
Yeah.
And Nate actually lives here. I'm just a visitor. And Roxanne and Joel, who had been here for many years and was responsible for the editing of Choices Ours, Paradise or Oblivion, and numerous other productions, will be here till the end of next month, which is July. And so there's just 2 others. It's just Roxanne and Nate, who actually live here.
Uh-huh.
And just, you can imagine how busy she is.
Yeah.
Which, if I may, I'd like to point out and to bring everyone's attention that Roxanne will be speaking before the United Nations Novus event on July next month, the 20th, 2019.
Yeah,
So
I was going to mention that because I became aware of that in the last week, seeing notices for it, and that's very exciting. That
wow.
Roxanne is going to be at the UN.
But again, it illustrates that everything that Jock and Roxanne, the procedures that are involved for a transition, are being underway. There's constant work. So many people, every once in a while we see somebody writing, well, the Venus Project isn't doing anything, which just says they don't know, because there's incredible things. When you're ready, we'll cover some of those wonderful and very, very exciting and very pinnacle things that are underway right now for everyone on this planet.
All right. Well, that's good. You want to now? I'm trying to keep these short because it's easier for people to digest them if they're 15 minutes or so. But if you maybe quickly want to go over some of the projects that you're talking about, do you think you could?
Yes, of course. The very first one is that there are tours. That this is a real example. This was called Phase 1, which is completed. Started in '78. So the Venus Project Center is here and live, and everyone has the opportunity. Roxanne spends almost all day with everyone throughout the grounds, all 22 acres, several of the buildings go into and in depth, so that there are demonstrations that people need to have in order to understand this. Second is that there's a book. It's called The Best That Money Can't Buy. This is a very important. If you have any questions about the system, just, if we get the right person in Congress or any of that, get the book, The Best That Money Can't Buy. It is a very in-depth in size and scope about the Venus Project organization and the procedures that are enabled and enacted during transition.
All right.
The third is that we have an incredible, again, part of the phase. It's called the Center for Resource Management Development right now, where we have people that are surveying the earth for different land acquisition. We have several different teams. And in those teams of architects, electricians, all of these different factors involved are following procedure, using the scientific method for evaluation and determination, decisions that are based upon the needs, not somebody's opinion. And so that is underway. It is a huge undertaking. It is a most modern, technologically advanced city that will, it's not a city, it's a resource-based environment where people from all over the world come and work together, an all-out effort in order to provide a irrefutable and conclusive means as we develop and test this procedures. So the Center for Resource Management and all of this information is available. There is the resource-based-economy.org, and as well as the primary website, thevenusproject.com. And in addition, Roxanne speaking before the United Nations Novus event, Jock had just 2 years ago, going on 3, had been awarded a very, very prestigious award for sustainable city design. And that was a real mark and pinnacle of Jock's work and acknowledgement from the world. And so there are just, and there's all kinds, there's all kinds of things going on with the movie. There's a major motion picture which today has evolved, as all things have. We don't use old concepts and try to project them into the future. There are constant factors that change the future as we speak today. And by utilizing the information and the understandings that we all have attained, leads it to a direction that's more viable. And so the movie, major motion picture movie concept, has evolved in what's called transmedia. And there's a tremendous amount of information on that as well on the venusproject.com website. And so there's departments of social media, there's departments of the web development, there's departments in human behavior. There's just all of these, it's tremendous, and a room for everyone. Everyone is invited.
Okay.
To lend your skills. And
well, Luke, it's been fantastic talking to you. I know a lot of people have followed your work over there, and many more people will hopefully become familiar with it from links in the video that I'll put on there, and we'll just keep working toward the goal. We'll get there.
Well, I sure thank you, Steve, for everything. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank everyone for watching. Know that although it may not seem in your own town, you don't see enough of it there. You're not alone, that everywhere, all over the world, that we're working together for one specific thing, resource-based economy. Thank you for having me on.